Hello my fiery friends, the Infernoman here with our deck tech for you today. And for today's deck tech, we're going to be covering a budget version of one of the hottest decks that are currently being played right now on Magic Arena. This is basically the Parhelion Greasefang combo deck out there that utilizes either white, black, and blue or white, black, and red. Our version is going to be using blue, and I think we want to call it something cooler. Let's call it instead Greasefang's Angels, which I honestly think sounds a lot more exciting to play. So the way we're going to be doing this deck is we're going to be building it on a budget, as I mentioned before, and we're only utilizing 1 mythic and 9 rares. That's it. I actually have tested this out and it is doable on even a budget. So for those of you that do enjoy trying to play some of these popular decks but don't want to spend all the rare and mythic wildcards, here's your version of this hot deck. But before I continue rambling on, let's explain to you, for those of you who are new to the channel, what we do. First off, we're going to be covering the creatures in the deck first, then we cover the non-creature spells, we'll then cover the mana base, we'll then go over the sideboard, we'll have a match against Sparky to show you how the deck is meant to be run, and if you are a fan of this content, please make sure to give a like on the video and subscribe to the channel to see all the deck techs, booster pack openings, and more. And with that out of the way, let's go ahead and dive right in. Now to begin, we only have 6 creatures in the deck. As you kind of notice, the Greasefang deck is mostly a actual control deck mixed in with a combo. And in this case, we only really need 6 creatures. So we are going to have, starting off with Hotshot Mechanic, which crews our vehicles as though its power was 2 greater. So basically this can help us also launch out our Parhelion a little bit easier. Think of these as extra copies of Greasefang itself. But let's actually get to the main reason why you're here. If you're already unaware of how this card works, as you can see, it is a 4/3 Rat Pilot. And at the beginning of combat on your turn, return target vehicle card from your graveyard to the battlefield. It gains haste. Return it to the owner's hand at the beginning of your next end step. So in other words, this is one half of that important combo and the whole reason why we're even doing this in the first place. This card gets out any one of your vehicles, regardless of its mana value, for free back onto the battlefield. Yes, it will bounce back to your hand, but we'll show you, of course, in the non-creature spells in a second why that's not a big deal. This helps us get out that Parhelion to start swinging for massive damage out of nowhere. Sometimes we've actually been able to come from behind victories as long as you can just get out that Greasefang and just have that Parhelion in the graveyard. But otherwise, that's it for our 2 creatures. They're literally just here just to get the rest of our vehicles online and flying and smashing our opponent's face. As far as your non-creature spells are concerned, we got a lot to go over. So first off, let's cover the spot removal in your deck. You have Portable Hole, Glass Casket, and Banishing Light. You have a combination of these cards just to make sure that you can control your opponent's stuff as each turn goes by. Normally, if you're able to draw cards, then you usually shouldn't have to worry too much about controlling your opponent's board with spot removal, but these are here in case if you need to just get something out of the way and stall out your opponent. If things do go completely out of control, you have 1 single copy of Wrath of God. Again, only 1 copy because we are a budget deck, so make it count. Now, as far as your card draw is concerned, to get to your combo, we have Tezzeret Betrayer of Flesh, Thirst for Knowledge, and Faithful Mending. Faithful Mending is what you're mostly going to rely on. That gain 2 life is also great against aggro decks to make sure we can slow them down just enough to get our combo out. Draw 2 cards and discard 2 cards. The flashback is also extremely helpful here to keep our deck churning through. Same thing with Thirst for Knowledge. You're drawing 3 and you can discard 2 unless if you discard an artifact card, which in our deck is not really a big deal. And then finally, Tezzeret Betrayer of Flesh. Once again, single copy because we are budget, but we can draw 2 cards for its +1 and discard 2 cards unless if it's an artifact that's discarded. Sometimes you want to do the -2 to make a vehicle to close out the game, but you won't have to worry about doing that too often. Prodigy's Prototype is mostly here just to help us make pilot tokens, which can either be great for chump blocking or can help us crew out some of our vehicles in case we can't get to our Greasefang. Mobilizer Mech is just mostly support. It's actually pretty good as a 2-mana 3/4 with flying. That's actually really sweet. Its crew costs may seem a little bit tricky to do if we don't have a pilot token out or our Hotshot Mechanic, but it's pretty easy otherwise to get out there if we can get our Greasefang, if we can get out our Hotshot Mechanic. But of course, the main star of the show is Parhelion 2. This card, while expensive at 8 mana, you're not really wanting to pay that. Instead, you're utilizing, of course, your card draws, such as your Faithful Mending, your Tezzeret, your Thirst for Knowledge, to then throw this into the graveyard and pull it back out using the Greasefang combo. But just in case if your opponent is trying to mess up the game plan, in the main deck, we're utilizing 4 copies of Disruption Protocol, which is counterspell in Historic. How is that possible? So you can see right here, as it says, as an additional cost to cast a spell, you tap an untapped artifact, or you pay 1 to counter a target spell. So utilize it, again, just to either protect your Greasefang, utilize it to protect whatever combo pieces you're trying to get out. This is essential, but you only have 4 copies, so make it count. To help also out to protect our Greasefang, we're going to utilize Fading Hope. We have 2 copies in the deck. Yes, you can use them against certain opponents, but otherwise, because Greasefang is a 3 mana value creature, Fading Hope can help us bounce it back and also take advantage of the Scry effect. But that's otherwise it for the non-creature spells in the deck. Everything works together. Remember, again, my simple tip I give you is do not be afraid to be aggressive with your card draw to get to your combo pieces. So for the land bases, you kind of notice, again, it kind of stinks to, at a budget level, you're going to have a lot of tap lands. However, for control decks, tap lands are actually not that bad to have. For example, for us, you can utilize, again, Tranquil Cove, Dismal Backwater, and Scoured Barrens coming in tapped, but they still gain you a little bit of life, and in this deck, because of how it works, even that 1 extra point of life can still make a difference in preventing your opponent from gaining victory. Evolving Wilds is again your budget option that just helps out get out your islands and your plains. You'll notice that even though Greasefang requires black mana, we don't have a single swamp in the actual basic lands. Why is that? The reason being is it's the only card that needs it, so that's why you only need 1 copy of Scoured Barrens. You want to make sure you're hitting your blue and white mana as much as possible. Still, 4 copies of Dismal Backwater is what we're going to be rocking. And as far as your other specialized land, from the new set of Kamigawa, Mech Hanger is really sweet here. This just helps us ensure that we can get out either our vehicle or pilots on curve as best as possible. The extra ability being able to tap for 3 and this card to make a vehicle become an artifact creature is also nice. You honestly don't have to do that too often because of how this deck runs. You really want to focus on getting the Greasefang and Parhelion 2 combo out as soon as possible. But otherwise, that's it for the mana base. I'm pretty sure you already know where I'm going to say this. As soon as you can get those rare wild cards, and if you want to, upgrade the mana base. If nothing else, you're not really wasting wild cards because, again, when it comes to upgrading your mana base, that's going to be great and universal for all of your decks going forward in Arena. As far as your sideboard is concerned, we're going to be utilizing Deafening Silence to ensure that enemy control players don't get too greedy with us, but this is also mostly against the Is It Phoenix decks. Soul Guy Lantern as your catch-all as always for Graveyard Hate. Aether Gust, just a single copy of, mostly against most of the green-red aggro decks out there. Same thing also with Sunset Revelry to ensure that we can still get some cards in our hand. We can create some chump blockers, which also can be helpful for crewing our vehicles. And of course, the life gain is always relevant. 2 copies of Dovin's Veto, again, mostly against control matchups. Fracture can also be helpful against that, and also enemy Greasefang decks, because we can destroy those artifacts, enchantments, or planeswalkers that are trying to use against us. Against the Tempo decks, Ninja decks, and also other blue-heavy decks, Mystical Dispute. And an extra single copy of Wrath of God against go-wide strategies. But that's basically it for your sideboard. Alright, you know what time it is. It's time to fight against Sparky and show you exactly how you want to run this deck. Alright everybody, here we go. We're going to be playing Greasefang's Angels on a budget. Is it possible to pull off this combo still in about 3 to 4 turns using tap lands? I believe so. So let's look at our hand right here. And as you can see, ooh, we got the dream here. So we got the Faithful Mending to toss away the Parhelion. We have the Greasefang already in our hand. Banishing Light can help us control whatever troublesome card is on the field. Alright, we're keeping this. The only downside, again, is if you obviously are non-budget, then this would be a perfect turn 3 victory, but we're on tap land, so we're going to work with what we got. In this case, keep in mind that we don't have a basic swamp, so bring in the Scoured Barrens first. So this way, even if you get an island or a... Alright, we got a plains. Perfect. Let's do this. Tranquil Cove. So as you can see, we're going to be a little bit slow on the draw here, but this will work out still. So the way you want to do this, Faithful Mending, and then we'll toss away the Parhelion in a bit. You can also use Thirst for Knowledge here too. Mech Hanger. And we're going to wait. Assume that your opponent, especially if they're playing blue right here, they might be playing some kind of counter spell. But in this case, it's Sparky. Now we're set. Use for Thirst for Knowledge. Draw 3. Toss away the Parhelion. Nice and easy. We got another Parhelion, which is nice. Bring out a Plains. Greasefang. Oh yeah. This is the dream, guys. And only 4 turns here on a budget, it's still doable. Go swinging, make your angels, and in 1 turn, you shift the battle in your favor, doing 13 damage. Next turn, it's over. Okay, wow, that actually took way faster than I thought it was going to be. But there you go, guys. As you saw right there, that's it. That's the combo. You don't need to worry about anything else. Okay, we got another Greasefang, which is fine. Not that we need it. Okay, so Faithful Mending again. Draw 2. Pitch away the Greasefang and the Parhelion. We don't need an extra Greasefang at this point. Bring back the Parhelion 1 more time. And again, you can even use your Angels if you needed to crew it up. But we're going to still use Greasefang. We're going to be riding far and fast. Make more angels, even if they bounce anything at this point. As you can see, that's cute, but it doesn't matter. The trigger's already on the stack, so we already made the angels. Sorry, Sparky. That's the game. Very easy to do on a budget. Alright, hope you enjoyed that. Now, if you've made it this far into the video, thanks again for watching, everyone. You are my true fiery friends. And to reward you for those that are still watching, shout out to you again in the comments. Here's basically my version and take on the upgrades of the deck. As you see right here, this version is very heavy on everything for rares and mythics, and here's why. So for this version, we're going to be cutting out some of our cheaper stuff just to ensure we have a lot more consistency with the deck. And again, as you can see, we're going to be utilizing cards such as Reckoner Bankbuster. This helps us again draw cards, and again, this also creates us some treasure tokens, pilots to help crew our vehicles and ensure that we can still get through our attacks. We will lighten the load on things like Glass Casket and Banishing Light, and instead we're going to go into the other popular card right now, March of Otherworldly Light. This is an amazingly powerful card that sometimes you might actually be willing to sacrifice an extra copy of your Greasefang or Parhelion to ensure that you can make this a cheaper, cost-efficient card to get rid of anything that they have on the field. As far as other upgrades, you're going to actually add in an extra couple copies of Tezzeret Betrayer of Flesh, another copy of Parhelion just to ensure consistency. You're obviously going to spend a lot on upgrading the mana base, get your shock lands, your flip lands. The Ajano Seed of Empire is great also to use in a pinch to destroy an attacking or blocking creature. And of course your Otarwara, Soaring City, words are hard by the way, that helps us bounce away something that we also can avoid having to interact with. As far as your sideboard upgrades, there are a couple of things that I would want to point out. For example, the Grafdigger's Cage does seem a little weird. Now hear me out for a second. I know Grafdigger's Cage technically kind of hoses what Greasefang is trying to do, but in certain matchups, Grafdigger's Cage means that we're going to have to rely more on the Mech Hanger to bring out our Parhelion or even our Wrecker Bankbuster to ensure that we can get to victory. We do also have a copy of Hullbreaker Horror also in the sideboard. This also kind of helps us ensure that we can just out-tempo our opponent in a pinch if we need to. And again, the other thing that we're going to swap in is some extra Wrath of Gods against some of the go-wide decks out there. Because again, you only have one in the main deck, but now you can afford to have a couple extra. That's basically going to be it for the upgrades. As you kind of notice, the majority of it, of course, goes to land base. So as always, and I know you are tired of hearing me say this, but I'm always going to keep repeating it. In Arena, the first thing you want to start upgrading first is always upgrade your mana base before you go over the creatures. You can play with janky cards, but if you have janky lands, you'll kind of notice that you might struggle a lot more. When you have consistent land bases, even janky cards can still get you to victory. And there you have it, everybody. That is Greasefang's Angels on a budget. So tell me, what do you think? Are you a fan of these kinds of combo decks where you can recur things on the cheap? Or are you a fan of budget deck techs in general? Let me know in the comments below, and I would love to hear from you. But until next time, everyone, thanks again for watching. Please make sure to give a like on the video and subscribe to the channel to see all the deck techs, booster pack openings, and more. It only takes a couple clicks, and I really would appreciate your support. And just remember that no matter what you do play in the game of life, always be sure to burn bright. Later.